Sam, unless you want to get caught. What do you mean we already got caught?
You got.
Did we change the rules?
There are no rules.
Rules change every day.
No rules rule.
Rules are, there are no rules.
Yeah, that's it. No rules rule.
So we're doing this like the Mason Marchment spray the guy in the face when he was off sent to the side. And that's a penalty, apparently. It's not like he went straight at him and sprayed him. I don't whatever. This is the DLS Dallas Stars podcast. What are we doing? Well, we're here to actually talk about Dallas Stars. And we're going to do that with some good stuff today. We're going to hear a little post-game reaction from Pete DeBoer, Jason Robertson in our first segment. Then we're going to talk a bit about where they see the Stars after about a third of the season. Can you believe it? We're about 1/3 of the way through this thing already. NHL news and notes. A former Stars goalie finding a new home mid-season. And then Joey from Locked On Stars podcast will join us in our final segment. Let's get it going. Well, it has been the case of good and bad with the Dallas Stars, and at home, it's been really good. This is the DLS Dallas Stars podcast, live in our lounge studio today on a Monday. That is December the 9th. We haven't done one of these we keep saying this because there's so many games. We're actually going to do 3 consecutive shows today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, the aka consecutive. Craig Ludwig, Sam Nessler, I'm Owen Newkirk. John Anderson, our producer, is here. He's covering his face. He must not be having a good start to our show today.
We have some breaking news in the NHL.
What do you got?
Mackenzie Blackwood, hearing he's been traded to the Colorado Avalanche.
Really?
They're just going to
bring on the goaltender. I thought that was important since we're going to talk about
What does that say about your buddy Wedgie?
Yeah.
NHL
not
News
quite
and
the guy.
Notes, segment 3. I thought you were going to do something that affected the Dallas Stars directly.
I just
indirectly.
saw a trade, so figured I'd throw it out
We
there.
shouldn't let Sam look at Twitter because he can't.
Do you ever confirm those things? Like, is it confirmed? Does it come from the league?
Elliot Friedman.
Oh, so Elliot's your source.
Yes. I don't confirm them. Insiders have the sources to confirm
So
them.
not coming from Sam, it's coming from
No,
Elliot.
it's coming from
something
Elliot.
happens.
You know if I say something, it's coming from Elliot.
Okay. All right. I didn't realize you were a disciple of Elliot.
All right. We'll get to that. Let's talk about Dallas Stars for a minute, though, because Stars won again last night. They continue to be nearly unbeatable at American Airlines Center. 1 loss in 11 games in Dallas. They do have a home loss in Finland, but it's sort of a technicality because it's certainly not home. So what happened last night? Some post-game reaction. We did a full post-game. You can go find that on our YouTube channel or you can listen to it on your audio platform. We hope you did. And we did the full breakdown. But the one thing we didn't do was have the actual audio. Sam reported some of the things last night, and he did great stuff. But I wanted to hear some things from Pete DeBoer. His first reaction was just some basics on the win against the Flames.
You know what? I'm really proud of our group. We just finished, I think it's 13 games and 25 nights. We had a road trip east to Florida and Carolina. We had a road trip west to Utah and LA and Vegas in that 25 days. So we were running on fumes, and I thought we dug deep tonight. I liked our start. We sagged a little bit in the middle, but we got some big performances and plays from some guys at important times, and now we get a well-deserved rest. That's probably the toughest portion of our schedule in the rearview mirror. So I thought we dug deep.
That one is something Sam mentioned that last night, and it kind of stuck with me. And I looked at the schedule. It might be there's some tough parts still to come. I don't think that the hardest part of their season is over with. That was a very tough stretch, and they played some very good teams. But they do it again. They have a stretch where they play at Winnipeg, at Colorado over a 3-day period. They have an Eastern Conference swing, which I know the travel's not so bad, but it's every other day for a week and a half. There's a lot of games left. We're going to talk about it in our next segment. The Stars have played 27 games, literally 32% of the season. So they're about a third of the way through. But I still think that maybe be a bit premature to say that was the toughest stretch of the season.
Well, and there's going to be other things that come into factor as the season rolls along. And there's going to be more bumps and bruises. There's going to be more fatigue that's set in. And you play every other day for 25 days or even every other day for 10 days. There is no rest. You know, I mean, you may think that day off is rest, but it's not. And then as you go through the season, you got a bump that doesn't, heal up, and you got one of those nagging. Most of these guys have the nagging things, and so it seems like it never ends. But then again, there's 31 other teams that are saying the same thing because everybody's got that kind of a schedule just because of the way everything is set up this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of 4 and 6, a lot of 3 and 5s, and back-to-backs. They're coming right after one another. So maybe it could have been the toughest stretch. Definitely doesn't mean that it's easy the rest of the way, especially after that formation.
And honestly, you know this very, very well. As this season progresses, the intensity only gets higher as you get closer to the trade deadline and towards the playoffs. That's when teams tighten up, and so they make it even more difficult. I'm not saying these games are easy, but they're not getting any easier. And look, I respect that Pete saying they're on fumes, and this was a really difficult segment of the season. And they do have a 2-week break for the guys not playing in the Four Nations, and that will be a good recharge for them at a probably really pivotal time. But then it's going to be a sprint out of that. And, there's a chunk in January where they play a lot of games. In February and March, guess what? There's going to be a lot. But still, changing time zones. They went out west. They came back with time zone things. They went up. They went down. I was going to say they went all around. It just sounds silly. But it had to have been a very challenging period of time. But that doesn't mean it's the end of it. Well, one of the things that was really important about last night was one of the guys they need to be better than he's been is Jason Robertson. He's a big part of their team. He didn't make the U.S. roster for the Four Nations, frankly, because he just hasn't been his usual offensive dynamic self. But he scored a goal coming out of the penalty box last night. It was a big one for him because he had a goal disallowed at the beginning of the Vegas game that you could argue it. I think it was probably the right call. Pete called into a little question about, did the stick get under there before he sealed it? I think it was the right decision. But then Pete said, and we played in our pregame show, that he didn't go out there and find another way to score in that game. And he wasn't just singling out Jason Robertson, although he named him. There were other guys that didn't as well. Robo scored that goal last night, and here's what Pete thought about it.
Yeah, he wanted it. The things I liked about his feet were moving, and he did what he does best, which is stick the puck in the back of the net under, some heavy duress there from the back checker. So, again, that's usually what goal scorers need. You need one to go in and build off it. And, I thought, everybody was happy for him, and I liked how he scored. It wasn't a fluke. He worked for it. He moved his feet and he worked for it.
How about that? How he scored.
What did you hear him say twice?
Moved his feet.
There you go.
I knew you'd like that.
That's the difference. If you go back, who did Robo? There was a pass. It's a game or two ago that Robo was behind the net and made a backhand pass to Wyatt or somebody standing out front. I'm not sure. You remember that play? There was the non-goal that was the other night that didn't count, and then this one. The one, he's right. His feet were moving in all three of those. But the other thing, there was no traffic. So my pet peeve all the time is you have to fight your way through traffic to get to those spaces. He had open ice ahead of him. So what I've noticed from Robo in some games that I've watched back is that when there's traffic around him, his feet will stop. And so the only thing I would add to it, and again, it's a great sign because the biggest thing for goal scorers is their confidence. And when goals are going in, regardless if they're, there's two things. Move your feet and get to the front of the net. And that's how you're going to start scoring goals, and that's exactly what we're seeing with him. But you still have to have the mindset that when there's somebody next to you and you're coming across the blue line in the offensive zone, and if Rupe's got it or Stank or whoever he's playing with, it doesn't mean you stop your feet and say, I'll be out here, try to get it to me. And those are the things that I've noticed that he has to fight through in his own mind, keep on going. Because again, if you can't do it in this era, you'd have never done it in the other era. You know what I'm saying? So it's just about pushing through. And the other thing I was saying to you guys earlier is that when he does that, and if he's that third guy coming across the offensive blue line and he's driving to the net, yes, there's going to be times where he's going to find a pocket for a pass, but when you're driving to the net, what that does is that brings their third guy that's coming into the zone down low. And it really opens up the ice for the way that this team likes to play, for the defensemen that join the play. And there's a bigger hole up there. And then all of a sudden there's more bodies in front, and that's where the goals are scored in this game for the most part. That's a long-winded way to say he's doing a good job, but there's more I think he can do.
Well, I appreciate you adding some words, because unlike our buddy Sean, who likes to be very brief with certain things and then talk for 5 minutes about other things, this is a podcast, so it's all about our spoken word. So, yeah, sorry, we're creating a trend here where every day that Sean's not on the show because he's on vacation with his family and can't defend himself, we're going to carve him. And then when he comes back, I'm sure that John will make sure that we have a nice collage to bombard him all the things that we've said, including this. We're going to hear from Robo in just a second. You were in the scrum after the game. Did he seem different to you than some of the previous times you've interviewed him this season?
Definitely a little bit lighter. He was very honest, which I liked, and I think we might hear from him on some clips later. But,
we will hear from him.
Yeah, so but you'll notice it a little bit. He's never a guy that's going to be down, like completely down, except for that one that Les was talking about. That one for sure.
Oh,
after
I've
that
heard
game,
him sound a little
Vegas.
despondent.
Yeah, so you see it a little bit, but he's more of a positive guy, so sometimes you don't notice it. But last night he was very much acknowledging the fact that this was important. I think that was big. That it wasn't just I think I'm doing good. This was a huge goal. He knows it was a big goal, and it was a big weight off his shoulders. And he knows that it was a big goal for him in all the ways we just talked about, because it wasn't just a fluke goal that went off of him. Those can be big too to get a scorer going. But the way he scored the goal, that's got to feel really good. It's the same as if he had come down and put one top corner on a breakaway, things like that. But this one, working through the pressure, holding off a defender, using his skating, which is one of his weaknesses and has been a huge weakness early in the season, to put that puck in the net was huge, and you could see that on his face during the scrum.
Well, he was asked about, because one of the players you guys interviewed in the scrum before was Sam Steele. Steele had some sentiments basically that Robo's been doing the right things, that the results just haven't been happening for him this year as much as in the past. So Jason was asked, Sam Steele said these things. What do you think about your game right now?
I think I do a lot of good things. Offensively, I could do better things. Defensively, I think, pretty solid in the details and everything, being responsible. But offensively, obviously, I want to make more plays. And it starts with a good forecheck, starts with executing in the neutral zone and everything. And, I can start building off, like, felt good today and make some plays.
What do you think about that? Because he's honest, but he's also sort of quietly saying that we know he hasn't been up to his usual level.
I agree with him. When I anally dissect goals, and I as you guys know, and I want to know where it went wrong, and it's not always right at the net. There's other things that break down from the far blue line at times, and very rarely have you guys ever heard me say anything about Robo on a goal against, because he is. And again, it's the way that these guys play. It's easier to say, "You're my guy, I got you."
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that leads to other things at times. I'm not going to do that again, but
at least not right this second.
No,
we'll do it again.
But I usually don't point at the players for that, though. That's because that's what they're doing.
They're
exactly
that way. Yes.
So yeah, it's really, you don't, and generally for forwards, they're not near the net. Here I go.
You sure you want to go with that claim?
In this system, there are times they're at the net when they don't need to be at the net. It should be a defenseman there. But for the most part, they are on the perimeter chasing and following their guy around. So it's hard to pinpoint him. So I agree with what he's saying. But, these guys that get paid all the money, he gets paid the money to score goals. That's what he gets. He's not going to win a Selke. He doesn't even accuse himself of trying to win a Selke.
Nope.
So he knows that's how he's going to be judged, and we're going to judge him on that. And for me, it's always been about, when you're not scoring goals, what are you going to do to get to the spots, and how do you go about starting to score goals? So I agree with what he said, because he's like, well, I haven't done anything wrong. And he doesn't He hasn't done anything glaring where you go, oh my God, he lost his guy. Even if he loses his guy once in a while, it happens. Things happen. But he doesn't stand out for what he does or doesn't do defensively for me.
Let's carry this over. We're going to talk a little more about the game last night, but also, as Sam asked a really good question post-game about the snapshot of a third of the season. We'll get to that next on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast.
First, let's talk about Sleeper. Sleeper is the best fantasy platform out there. You can put your puck knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less in their projected stats each week on top of their amazing fantasy for all sports. For tonight, Nick Suzuki and the Montreal Canadiens are traveling to the OC to take on Jacob Trouba, weird, and the Anaheim Ducks. Despite the Trouba Gudis effect that is going to be taking place in Anaheim, I still think Suzuki gets a point, and you can win 1.42 times your money if he does. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. Sleeper is great at keeping you in the loop with instant alerts for breaking news and injuries, so you're always staying ahead of it and can keep track of updates in real time. If you think you have what it takes, download the Sleeper app and use the code DLS Stars to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms, conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
Boom.
Nice. Celebrate. Spike the ball. It's a touchdown, just like our GM always says. Let's talk about Shady Rays. You know why? Because they still haven't given Luds a pair. Well, actually, it's Luddy's fault. Because he didn't sign up for it, because he doesn't know how to find the Google Docs, and he's not in Slack. But that's beside the point. I bought a pair of Shady Rays before I even knew that we were going to get a complimentary pair. So then I got one and had my wife pick out what she wanted, and I gave her the complimentary pair. Then I liked it so much, I stole them from her and wore them for my costume, the NASA astronaut. And so then I had to give them back to her, and I ordered my own pair. So I have a couple pairs of Shady Rays now. Why? Because they're high quality, polarized lenses. They don't break the bank. And guess what? Great customer service. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use the code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right.
I think Jacob Trouba is going to want to introduce himself to the fans in Anaheim.
Who do you think has a bigger hit tonight, Trouba or Gudis?
No. I think that Trouba...
Or are they just going to sandwich
No,
somebody?
Trouba has bigger hits than Gudis does, but...
He's also a taller player.
He's a bigger guy.
Yeah, a couple of small, skilled guys on that Canadiens team too.
But Gudis is like a fire hydrant out there for me. You know what I mean? When you run into him.
Solid.
You know what I'm saying? But I think for Trouba, again, who are they playing tonight?
Canadiens.
Yeah.
Cold coffee.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the
few little guys that come across the middle.
That would be more of a Gudis hit, but he doesn't really step up on little guys. I don't think that he'll step on anybody, but I think he'll pick on somebody bigger. But we'll see.
Speaking of getting stepped up on, like that
segue.
Last night, it is a segue.
Sequitur.
Not the non sequitur. Last night, Sam Steele got stepped up on accidentally by his captain, and because of that, I'm looking at the wrong camera. Because of that, he spent a majority of the second period in the concussion protocol, which they confirmed after the game. Well, interesting question asked to Pete DeBoer after the game was, you had some pretty jumbly line combos in the second period. Did you have a plan for something like this if a player's out, or were you reacting? And here's Pete's response.
No, you're taking it minute by minute. I mean, you're getting updates from the concussion room on the protocol and how that's going. He's almost out, so you're trying to plan around his return, but you never know how long that's going to take, and it's just guesstimates for the most part. Thankfully, he was all right and came back because scored a big goal for us.
He did score a big goal. In fact, he's been a really important player. Look at that, Ardell. Yes. He asked and John delivered. I want to point this out briefly. We'll talk more about the Die Hard program later. But if you are a Stars Die Hard and a regular contributor in the Discord and in the chats, our producer John might just look favorably on your requests, a.k.a. the Man of Steel. And there's Sam Steele on Superman. That's the Henry
Ardell's
Cavill, right?
Is psyched.
It looks fantastic. But he's been, especially with Sagan hurt, Sam Steele's been a really important piece, being able to step up and fill a role, as well as Dadonov filling a role, because, again, Maverick Bourque is finding his game at this level. And, you know, at the start of the year, they thought maybe he could be in the third line, and right now he's doing fine in the fourth line. But I just thought that was an interesting comment because, Luds, you've been behind the bench coaching your junior team. You've been on the a bench 100,000 times, it feels like, I'm sure, as a player. You can have all the plans you want. Sometimes you just got to roll with what you get minute-to-minute updates on player injuries and who can go and who can't.
There's never really a plan. You know, I mean, you have an idea of what you would do, and then it all depends on how long he's out for. You don't know when he's out, which player it is, what kind of line he is. That's why general managers go out, and if you notice some of their language when they try to explain players to you or to you guys that are asking, they'll just say he can play up the lineup. And so what it's saying is he's a third, fourth line guy. We know he plays with details. He does the little things. He does the right things. Very rarely is he going to be caught out of position. But if a top six guy goes down, we can move him up because we don't feel that he's out of place playing with a Duchesne, a Sagan for a period of time. He's not going to stay there, but he can survive up there until we get somebody back or we can find another solution. So, and I think that's all how all general managers do it. I mean, they try to find their top six, and then everybody from there on down, they do certain things and have certain characteristics, but there's this one little thing. And there won't be six more down there. There's going to be two or three that have the capability of going up and surviving for a little bit.
I wouldn't be surprised to find out that Jim Nill did this intentionally, but the guys he started to bring in, Steele, Blackwell specifically, have had a little bit more skill than some other guys in the past in that role, right? Mm-hmm. You look at the hands of Steele and the speed of Sam Steele and Colin Blackwell making some deke. You weren't seeing Radek Faksa necessarily doing that a lot, right? So, or Ty Dellandrea a ton. So it's almost like Jim Nill said, let's get a guy that can do that so that they play their fourth line role perfectly. But if they do need to jump up, especially Steele, with his speed makes him versatile. I think that's the biggest thing for him is he doesn't seem out of place because his speed keeps him up to the pace with every line that he plays on. But now it's kind of like, all right, if this happens, we know we can put Blackwell up there. We know Dadonov can jump around. We know that Sam Steele can play up and down the lineup. And I think that versatility we talked about last night, the versatility for that lineup is going to be huge, especially as they navigate this Sagan injury and see what happens before the deadline.
And what's important with those players is they know what they are and know who they are. Like there was a guy that I'm always anxious to watch him play, but he didn't play last night for Calgary, and that was Lombard.
Who was attending his wife's first child, expecting.
But he's the kind of guy, and he's a fourth line guy, and he's an energizer. But if he has to go up and play on the third line, or if he gets a shift on the second line, he doesn't change his game. And he's going to go to the hard areas of the ice. He's not going to take penalties for the most part. And what's important is the other two guys that will be playing with him know who he is, and they know what his role is, and they know that, if it's Sam Steele and he happens to play up there with I don't know, Rope and Robo, they're going to know how Sam's going to play. They know that he's more of a direct player, but he's got the ability to make this little play here and there versus, somebody else that's down there. And if it's someone else, they know their traits and they know their characteristics and they stay within them.
All right, let's talk about the snapshot of the first third of the season now. 32% or so, 27 of the 82 games. We heard an interesting comment on the road from Pete DeBoer about thoughts on why the team has struggled compared to last year. They had the best record in the NHL on the road last season. They were fine at home, top 10, but they weren't as good as they were on the road. We've talked about that at length. They're 6-8 this season, which is under 500, obviously, and not where the Stars would like to be. And here's what Pete said about one of the reasons he thinks they're not winning more games on the road.
Well, you know what? I think just, a timely save, a timely goal. That's what it comes down to, and, tonight was probably the same. I think if you're going to be a good road team, you've got to get timely goals at the right time, and you got to get timely saves, and we don't seem to be getting either of those on the road right now.
What do you think about that, Luds? Because that was after the Vegas loss, and they had just lost back-to-back road games at LA and then at Vegas, and dropped to 2 games under 500. And they had started that road trip thinking we could win 2 of 3 or maybe even 3 of 3 if things go well. And that's the same thing that happened on that previous road trip to the Southeast, where They beat Tampa, maybe weren't the better team, but they did enough. Dominated Carolina for 2 periods and then got shellacked in the third and then had a really poor game in Chicago.
Timely saves and timely goals. Who generally makes the saves that aren't expected saves? Your number one goalie?
Your best players.
So he's pointing his finger at him.
Yep.
I know the other guy, Casey, a little bit. And who scores timely goals?
They're big scorers.
Big-time players score those goals. And there's the odd time you'll get a goal from Steele and guys like that, but he's pointing the finger at top guys if you just want to listen and read between the lines. Because very rarely, unfortunately for the bottom 6 guys, do the top guys get called out. Usually it's, you're out there for this and you got to do that. And if you don't do that, we can't put you on this. You hear all that. But the top 6, especially the top 3 or 4, just have a longer rope. It's the way it is. And so when you're saying that, there's a hidden message in there that's saying, again, we needed goals from Jason Robertson. We needed a save from Jake Oettinger. Now they're saying like for Jake, it's a save that I expect you to make routinely. And there's that odd one. And we've seen that. There's been a couple that we've seen that, and again, the last person I would point out is Jake, because he is the reason that they are where they are. Otherwise, at the beginning of the season, they might not be in the same spot.
And can you imagine if he was only average?
Yeah.
Where they wouldn't be in a playoff spot right now.
Yeah.
And the conversations from going from you're expected to be a Stanley Cup contender to you are not even in the play. You're fighting to get into the wild card. Where they're only a couple points above it right now, but they're also only a couple points away from the top of the division.
It's the way the Avs are banging their head against the wall because of their goaltending.
No doubt.
They've got a couple. Well, not a couple. They got a few quality players there, and
they do.
It's an important position. They're
bringing in just about everybody they can to find a.
They're trying.
Well, Sam asked Pete an interesting question about the 27-game snapshot after last night's win over Calgary.
We have a lot of resiliency. I think we've done a good job again of stopping the bleeding, not allowing 1 or 2 losses to turn into 3, 4, or 5. Those long losing streaks. I just talked to the group in that 13 games in 25 nights. Other than the Chicago game, I really believed we could have won every night. We were right there every night. We didn't win them all, but we were right there and competitive every night. So that's a good feeling as a coach.
Sam, what was your reaction to his answer to your question?
I agreed with it, and I thought that would probably be something similar because he's been pretty. He hasn't held back on criticizing the team and knowing that the team hasn't found their game. But on the flip side, what we're talking about right now is a lot of little things, right? I think you said it the other day, Luds. We could very easily be talking about who this team needs to sell off and what they need to do to maybe just make a playoff spot, like you were just saying, Owen, and scratch and claw. We're not there. We're talking about a team that's probably going to be in the playoffs, probably going to be in a top 3 spot in a division that we're just trying to see how they can get to the next level to be a contender. That's it. That's a good spot to be in as a team, right? Those are good problems that you're trying to figure out. So for Pete, I think that was perfect. Other than I think Winnipeg maybe could be added to the list. I think you said that last night of the Chicago Winnipeg. So maybe 2.
Absolutely, that game in Winnipeg.
Yeah. So maybe 2 games.
They were down 4-0, guys. They scored 2 minutes to go in the third period. They didn't have a chance to win that game.
So if you go back and look at the team that wins the Stanley Cup this year, they're going to have some of them games this year.
Of course, yes,
always.
It happens.
It happens on those nights. And Chicago was the perfect example. That was, I think, their lowest of the season. But to be in, I think I said this last night, to be in the game as much as possible and throughout 80 to 90% of those games, to be available and have a chance to win those games, that's how you get those extra wins. That's how you get those extra points. And what I'd like to see from this team, I think Taylor Baird asked this question, I can't remember when. I'd like to see this team maybe go to overtime a couple more times and lose.
You're talking about when they're behind.
Yeah, they're the fewest. They have the fewest overtimes of any team in the league.
Yeah,
I think they're only
Robert
one
was
overtime game.
Comebacks yesterday morning, and he basically said, if you get this is DeBoer, and he said you get one, and then you start to get the confidence that you can do it again.
Yeah.
Personally, and Buddy and I talked about this in the postgame. You were here for this. We don't need more overtime. That's fine.
No, but, just maybe a point or 2 here is the point.
I think the
only time you want an overtime is when you're losing late in the third period. Yeah.
So, that's it. Can they claw and scratch their way to lose, quote unquote, the right way to get that extra point? Sure, but if you're winning games because you're ahead and you seal the deal, We don't need any more
No,
overtime.
thank you for overtime.
And in this kind of a schedule, when you're playing that many games in 25 days or whatever it is, and you go to overtime and you only get 1 point out of it, and you don't get that extra point, they're going to look back on it when they're into the playoffs. They're going to say that was a good point that we got there because we played 3 games and 4 nights. You know what I mean? That was a good point. So you change your conversation depending on what the terms are.
Up next, I'm going to let Sam talk about goaltending trades. I will, I promise. I'm not going to just brush him aside. I will make sure you have you have a read to do, but make sure when I'm doing my read that you have the terms ready, because I'm going to let you tell everybody what happened as our show began on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast.
Empire Today. I think this is my first read that we did when the show started. This is one of my favorites.
Seems like yesterday.
It's
You
deep.
sang that
It's
one
deep.
too.
I sang it from remote. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. So of course they're going to have copycats, but Empire cannot be beaten on quality, service, or speed. So competitors will advertise low quality products that Empire simply will not carry. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not to overwhelm you. They have their virtual floor designer that makes it easy to snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in any room. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners of the show can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. That's DLLS. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DLLS for details.
Let's talk about game time. I don't know about you, but when the holidays are around, that's a great time to take the family to a sporting event, concert, comedy show, theater. Why? Because the kids aren't in school. So they don't have a school. They don't have to get to bed as early, and you can go have those experiences. Well, with Game Time, it's focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means that when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better. And this is a good one. It's a perfect gift. Talk about a great way to go to the events you want and also gift them to your family, friends, relatives, you name it. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for live events even easier by filtering out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Sam, what time is it?
Game time. Time to talk about goalies.
That was boring. There
You
was
told me to
nothing behind it.
You told me to focus on the goalies, and then
Nothing
you asked
behind
me a
it.
question.
Well, now I have to
Too many
focus-
things on the brain.
We have to focus on goalies because we can't keep talking about the ad read when we get back to the segment, or we're going to get yelled at. I listen, John. So we're going to talk about Scott Wedgwood, but before we do, Sam.
Yes. So this trade is much more interesting than I originally thought. So the Colorado Avalanche received Mackenzie Blackwood from the San Jose Sharks, along with Giovanni Smith and a 2027 fifth-round pick for Alexander Georgiev.
Oh, they got
rid of Georgiev, gave up on that, obviously, along with Nikolai Kovalenko and a 2026 second-round pick and 2025 fifth-round pick.
You could make it bigger if you can't read it.
And I tried to zoom in. It wasn't working. But
So
I didn't realize that
a
was
second and a fifth.
yeah, second and a fifth. And the Avalanche get a fifth.
What year is the second round pick?
That is 2026.
So 2 years
For
from
2
now.
years.
So there's obviously a prospect coming up that somebody likes in that round. That
Thank
year, I mean.
Or
Because-
it's a second, and because
You're
Colorado,
not taking Georgiev because you think he's going to
No. This is all about the other stuff for San Jose, because that's
Yeah.
my first thought. So
Yeah.
they're willing to give up Mackenzie Blackwood because they are not in win now mode. And so what are they getting back that's beneficial to them? Is it Kovalenko that they like? Maybe. Is it the second and the fifth? And is it specific to that draft, Luds, or is it just the fact that they're collecting picks? Not hoarding it, but getting a second rounder, even if it's 2 years from now, can still be used either to be flipped or to draft somebody that they think could be good for the
my
future.
opinion, it's because of that draft year.
You think?
I mean,
2
that's
years
what I
from
think.
now that they're that certain about a second round
Hey,
pick?
these guys are picking kids out at 15 years old.
That's crazy.
And they follow them for
All right.
years, and they follow their progress. They see their trajectory, and and they have something that they believe in. So that's my opinion. I don't know. I don't even know who the pick would be, or I don't even know what kids are,
and they don't even know where it's. Yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't know how I give these
just think
guys
they're
so much
looking
credit.
at value of getting a pick, because even if you get to that year and you're better than you thought, and then you can use that second as currency to go get somebody else.
Yeah,
Kovalenko is a 25-year-old. 2018, 2018 sixth round pick for Colorado. He's got 8 points in 28 games in his first season.
Yeah, he's playing he was a third or fourth line role, I think he was for them.
It was a good bonus, but I didn't know that Georgiev. We saw that coming, but I thought they maybe just keep stocking goalies. But I didn't see Colorado having Scott Wedgwood and Mackenzie Blackwood as their goaltending tandem.
They just basically rekindled the New Jersey Devils tandem from 4 years ago, right? 4 or 5 years?
Which is hilarious. The Devils goalies just seem to go to, if Vanacek and Blackwood go together, then Blackwood goes to someone else. Now Blackwood's back with Wedgwood.
And now it's Vanacek and Georgiev.
Yeah, they love to hang out, I guess.
We've been seeing this for a while.
Do they have 2 backups now? Is that the way you look at it?
For Colorado?
2, yeah.
They basically have 2 backup goaltenders.
Unless they think remember
Blackwood, where a couple days ago they had a backup and no goaltender.
There was a point where New Jersey thought Blackwood was their starter of the future.
Right, he just can't stay healthy.
Could he be the starter?
Yeah.
Could he be that guy? Well, they traded for Wedgwood, Colorado did, from Nashville, and I still left my paper over there. Damn it. We'll move on. I looked at the stats between Wedgwood in Nashville versus Wedgwood in Colorado, because he's played 3 games. He has more wins in 3 appearances, 2 starts and 1 relief appearance with the Avalanche, than he did in 5 games, 4 starts. He was 1-2-1 with, again, admittedly, a very underperforming Preds team. But this is where I was going with this. I happened to be watching Buffalo versus Colorado on December 3rd, so it was just about a week ago, when Buffalo torched Alexander Georgiev. 4 goals, shredded him. Just they got the first, then all of a sudden 2 quick ones, then a fourth, and he didn't get pulled after the third, 2 quick ones. It was the fourth one, and that was the hook. Wedgwood came in, shut the door, and Colorado rallied to win 5-4. And in the post game, in the Avalanche dressing room, this was 2 former Dallas Stars celebrating a win.
Oh, good. Ready to come back? I give it to Wedgie. Yeah. Boys, I said it when I got traded here. You guys are never out of a good squad. That was fun. 4 lines, 60, 2 tendies all year. Let's go. Let's move this.
So that was Scott Wedgwood accepting the giant oversized hat that they passed around from Valerie Nichushkin. And he was good in that game. But that dynamic, the top end of the Avalanche are so good that if you give them a chance, they're never out of games. And they're scary. I saw 4-0. Wedgwood came in. We were kind of excited. Hey, Wedgie's going to get his first appearance with the Avalanche. He's just in mop-up duty. And I turned the game off and we had something else to do. All of a sudden, I check it afterwards, and they won 5-4.
Well, they won a Stanley Cup with not an elite goaltender, right? And
it was with Darcy Kemper.
Yeah, so now they think that that's another formula for them. They don't have to. And we'll see if that pans out. But it seems like, again, the Jake Oettingers and Hellebucks are hard to come by. You're not just going to go out and somebody's going to give you one of them. So, but they've found a way in their minds, and Joe Sakic knows how they won a Stanley Cup, and they still believe that they have enough bullets in the gun that basically what they're saying is we can outscore our mistakes. So we'll see.
You think they can, Sam?
They're missing a couple key guys.
Yeah, they can. I mean, they certainly can. I don't know that they're a Stanley Cup champion again, but it's a really interesting dynamic to watch, because now we have no clue. Blackwood could come in and be the Blackwood that they expected. Wedgwood could come in and lock down that position, and he could play more games.
How about the team he beat last night with a shutout?
Yeah.
His old team.
Yeah.
The New Jersey Devils.
So he's come back to the Devils, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, Luds, you know it is. You always find a little extra motivation when you're playing an X team, even when you have fond memories, because, look, every single guy in the NHL is competitive. Every single one. To a very high level. And so they'll find anything to turn the juices up. It'll be flipping quarters in the locker room or whatever you do. You're going to try to win that. You're trained that way. So then you say, hey, I'm going to go play my old team, my friends. Oh, I definitely want to beat them.
But how many guys would still be left there, you think?
Not as many as probably when he was there, but still, it's the team, it's the fans, it's the organization. And I'm not saying he has bad blood about it. It's just when you've been somewhere, when you've played for that team, it stays with you, at least a part of you.
Yeah. So I texted him after that game that we were just watching the video, and he
Name
said,
dropper.
He said it reminded me of the Dallas arrival a little bit. Try to win the room over with effort. Felt good. Can't not like that entrance. And then something else he said to me that was really interesting was he said he definitely feels a big part of the reason he was brought there was for the room, for his personality and what he brings to the room, which makes a lot of sense because that's what people, if you were to say, what do you miss more about Scott Wedgwood in Dallas? I would think 90% of people say his off the ice stuff versus his on the ice stuff. So that could be a big dynamic. Maybe that's what the team needed. They were down on themselves a little bit with all that was going on. So that's a big part of his game, and we'll see off the ice and on the ice. He should have an impact there.
That's important for that guy in that role, that backup guy, because I've been around some of them guys and the goaltenders that I was fortunate enough to play with. They wanted to play every single game, and a lot of times they did. And you can't have that backup guy coming in there and moping around and feeling sorry for himself and thinking that he got screwed because he hasn't played in 5 or 6. They're upbeat people and they know what their role is, and it's part of why they make moves for those kind of guys, because it's one of the questions that they'll do their homework on what kind of teammate he is, because you need a good teammate in that position.
So we didn't think that this whole segment was going to be about the Avalanche. So I do want to do one other quick story from NHL News and Notes. I think we'll save talk about the Capitals and Wild for tomorrow segment about NHL stuff, because that's right. The Caps and the Wild are tied for the President's Trophy lead right now. We'll get to that.
What?
Luddy, I showed you these clips the other day. Patrick Laine returned to Montreal. He's played 3 games since the knee injury he suffered in preseason. He was named to the 4 Nations Finland roster. They talked about it when he was rehabbing. And what does he do? He comes out and he scores a power play goal in each of his first 2 games. He didn't in his third, but you've played a long time and won the ultimate prize with Montreal. Those fans, when a big guy goes out there who's, had some tough times, but known as a goal scorer, and he goes out and scores goals, how do they react to that?
Well, I think they hung all the flags there the day that he got hurt at half-mast, because they've been waiting for the next Guy Lafleur or Mats Naslund or that guy to come along that has that ability to put the puck in the net the way that he does, his size and everything else that he has. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I remember I was watching the home opener, which Montreal generally goes over the top when they have their home opener, and he was standing in the hallway, kind of off the bench, but the camera spotted him, and then they ended up putting the big spotlight on him. And the outfit he had on, he would have won the Halloween costume. He's that kind of.
He's a very.
He and Rope, a couple of Finns that love their fashion.
Yeah, if that's what you want to call it, that's fine. So, but again, but the look on his face, it was just dejection. Like he just felt, and he was so disappointed, and he was standing there on crutches that he wasn't able to play in that game, and the Montreal fans, I guarantee they saw that. And they saw how disappointed a player was and at that moment. But more importantly, they saw a player that wanted to be part of that organization and that team and play in that culture. And I think they've loved him since that moment. And then for him to come out and score these kind of goals that he does, just ask the Dallas people here. We've seen that particular guy. He can light it up from
especially
anywhere on the ice.
Stars,
and it looks like he's not even in a position to shoot. So he's got that leverage. He can shoot the puck from straight up, and somehow it's mesmerizing for goaltenders.
Sam, I showed the 2 video clips of the goals to Luds because I had watched them, and just the word that kept coming to mind was he has a violent wrist shot. And it's not his motion, because as Luddy says, he's very compact and almost efficient. He doesn't have this, it looks like he's going to do this huge windup, and then he just kind of like, it just, but the trajectory and the pace of which that wrist shot comes off his stick and into the net just looks violent to me.
Yeah, it was almost a guarantee when he was with Winnipeg that he was going to score when they played the Stars. And he's just one of those guys that it reminds me of Jamie Benn a little bit back when Ben was scoring a lot of those wrist shot goals where you don't need a lot of space. You don't need a lot. You doesn't need to even be close in. I picture Jamie Benn winning a faceoff in the neutral zone, stepping 3 feet over the blue line and beating a goaltender from there. I think it was in a playoff series. So that's what Laine can do. If he has any space whatsoever, he is able to do it quickly and get it off. And it's kind of different because he doesn't need the Bedard toe drag move that we see a lot too. There's so many different styles.
Yeah.
And that's what's really hard for goalies, I imagine, to catch up to it.
I don't know. And the only thing I can think of is golfers. And there's these little wee guys. And the word that comes is mechanics. And, these guys, I've played with some of these guys. And not that I'm not a golfer at all. I go out and have a good time. And, literally, when I swing the club, I come out of my shoes. I don't wear shoes generally. But the point is and then you get this little guy that steps up and drives it 30, 40 yards farther than you did. And there's nothing to his swing. And so it's all mechanics. And he has the right delivery to be able to shoot the puck the way he does. And, any team would love to have that guy. His thing has always been being able to stay healthy.
Patrick Laine, in his first 9 games against the Dallas Stars, scored 14 goals. I'm laughing because that's silly. 2 hat tricks, 3 2-goal games. In his first 9, he had 19 goals in 28 games.
It was like just the betting. If there was that time, how many is he going to get against the Stars? Is he going to get the 3
again? He didn't score
again?
in his debut at Dallas, October 25th, 2016. 2 days later in Winnipeg, he had 2, and then he just took off.
Yep.
Was he with Columbus that year that Dallas was in Columbus division in that shortened season? Wasn't that when he went to Columbus?
The first year he was in Columbus was February of 21.
Yeah,
so he did play a bunch against Dallas.
I don't feel like he did that much, did he?
No,
with Columbus.
1 goal.
Yeah,
he wasn't happy to be there.
No, and that was obviously a crazy season.
And
for
we're
a lot
running
of
out of
reasons.
time in the segment, but Luds, is this look, he was great in Winnipeg early, injury issues and sort of a degrading of play. He goes to Columbus. You said he wasn't happy there. Is this a chance for a new lease on life for him in Montreal?
I think he's seen in a Canadian market, being a small market like Winnipeg, how much they loved him in that market, that he knows, now he has the feeling of what Canadians feel about their hockey, and that he can be that guy now. And they've written about it and they've talked about it. Like, they're looking for that guy. Now, Cole Caulfield is kind of that guy for me. You know what I mean? I don't know why they're looking for another one, but he's just different. So I would expect that they're going to love him.
Winnipeg's Canadian, but it's a smaller market.
Yeah.
Columbus, great city, but again, not the biggest market in the U.S. Montreal's the biggest hockey market he's ever played in as an NHLer, as a home guy.
Yeah, I think he wants that. He wants to be able to score goals.
Well,
And it might help they're not a playoff team too. Maybe that takes a little bit of the pressure off the shoulders of him. Just go out. Well, yeah, but not expected to be. Let's say that.
Up next, let's talk to Joey from Locked On Stars here on the DLLS Dallas Stars podcast. But first, let's talk about becoming a diehard. You saw what the graphic was that John used earlier in the show. He made that sometime between late last night and the start of our show today for Sam Steele for Ardell, one of our great diehards. You be a diehard, maybe you too can get a graphic. You have to be active in the chats and be, an integral part of our diehard community, which is great. How do you do that? Well, sign up. Go to the QR code on the screen. If you're listening, go to alldls.com, our website, find the diehard link, and sign up. The annual subscription, you can wear a shirt like the one I'm wearing right now. You get a free t-shirt with your diehard subscription. Luddy's got the same one on. Sam has, what do you have on, Sam? You've got the Defend the Green.
Defend the Green.
That's one of the Stars branded shirts, as you see at the bottom of the screen. That's part of the package. It's also all of the stuff that's behind the diehard paywall, the writing from Sam and Sean, also the other sports, Cowboys, Rangers, Mavericks, you name it, and access to the Discord. We're going to be doing that this week again. And Luddy has requested for you guys in the Discord already, let him have it. Get creative. Don't just say, hey, do you like hockey? Not that you guys have been saying that, but stump him a little bit. Get him on his toes.
You know what I've loved about our diehards?
Within good taste, of course.
Yeah, of course. I've been looking at the chat, too. Our diehards are amazing. We're talking about Wedgwood. They're talking about the Stars Golden Knights Game 7. And then all of a sudden they're talking about if Craig Ludwig would be a top 6 defenseman on today's Vegas Golden Knights. So
ask this
all kinds of conversations.
Hey, Discord. Throw that
out
in
there
for Wednesday's segment. Luddy's damn Discord channel. Oh, John
apparently
doesn't think
those
so.
guys start drinking early too.
They said you were a 7th.
Oh, awesome.
Wow, well, let's save that. Let's do that as part of the Discord. I think that would be great. So again, alldls.com. Sign up, be a diehard. All right. Our final segment today is the first time for us to welcome on a collab as we welcome in Joey Erickson, who is the host of the Locked On Stars podcast. Hi, Joey. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you doing? I'll be honest. I'll admit I'm running on fumes a bit here on a Monday. It was a long weekend, but happy to be on and chop it up with you fellas.
Well, Luddy never sleeps. Sam is sick all the time.
Yeah.
And I have to get up early with the kids, so late night Stars games and sleep is not working very well. So I'm going to try to have discipline, guys, to actually go to bed at a reasonable time tonight. Will I? I think Sam would pick the less than on sleeper.
Absolutely.
So, Joey, we were just talking in our middle segments about, it's a third of the way through the season already, which is a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
How do you feel the Stars are from your perspective? Where are they at with 2/3 still to go?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. I'll say first off, I think the Stars have been a bit inconsistent this season. They don't necessarily play well from behind. I don't know if a lot of teams do, but I think I read the other day they only have a couple of wins from come from behind victories. They're getting some spotty goaltending here and there. I think Jake Oettinger's been really, really good. However, for a large part of this season, I just think the Stars need some of their stars to step up a bit more. I know Jason Robertson's getting a lot of talk here recently, and I've had my fair share of criticisms on Robo, but he looked really good the other night against Calgary. Hopefully that's a positive sign. I feel like the optimist in me, though, is really, really bullish on the Stars' chances, because I really believe that the Stars are going to look a lot different come playoff time. And that's where I believe if the Stars can just get in, they have the roster they constructed, they can do some damage, because it feels like the West is pretty wide open. And I know Minnesota's off to a heck of a start, and Winnipeg looked unbeatable for the first month and a half of the season. But I really feel like I would put the Stars up against any of those teams in a 7-game series if they have the roster they want. I think General Manager Jim Nill is in silence right now. He's gonna make some moves and get this roster to look like how he wants, and I think he expects in a Stanley Cup champion. But for as all the criticism and inconsistencies they've had, it's like, well, man, they're still in a really good spot. They're 9th in the league. I mean, just wait till Robertson and Johnston and these guys really start to roll. It feels like they could do a lot of damage.
Letty, that's an interesting thing that Joey brings up, because immediately when he talks about a different looking team come playoff time, I think of the 2010 Chicago Blackhawks, because after they won a Stanley Cup, they didn't have to win the division. They could turn it on later in the year. The Tampa Bay Lightning did the same thing, showing, hey, don't count us out. We don't have to be the number 1 overall seed to be a problem in the playoff time. Your guys, your team back in the 90s you did win the President's Trophy, but you didn't have to be dangerous. But at the same time, being a veteran group, it doesn't mean it's so easy just to switch it on and go. You do have to get yourself going at some point.
Right. And you have, but in that veteran group, there were a lot of leaders, and not just guys that, wearing the A's. And so what you have is you have guys that have different ways to motivate the group, because wherever they were prior to that, they were those guys. And so now all of a sudden we had a collection of guys that had to motivate different groups. And so you're able to kind of pull guys along, at different times. And so I just wonder, Joey, like, for when you say make some moves or may not have a different team, are you thinking that there may be a Chris Tanev kind of move that rolls down the line? Because I think under Jim's, the way he's done his business, and I think a lot of GMs do, if they get to a certain point, and generally, and not at the deadline, I'm talking about a few weeks out, they go, we believe in this group, and they don't make those moves. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I believe that they'll probably go out and get a defenseman sort of like Chris Tanev. And I think it could be earlier than, the trade deadline. It could be a January move. I know with Tyler Seguin possibly going on the LTIR, that's a possibility. It opens up a lot of cap space for them. So I don't know if look, they're not going to play a different style of hockey. Pete DeBoer wants them to play this sort of smothering offensive game. And I think right now with some of the defensemen they have, like Dumba and Brendan Smith, don't necessarily fit perfectly within that system. And if they could go out and get a defenseman that can really thrive, possibly in a top 4 role, or just a depth piece, because you can never have too many depth guys on the back end. that they could be a bit stronger defensively and really fit into this, Pete DeBoer system of, trying to win hockey games by track meets sometimes and, scoring a lot. And you mentioned Colorado a bit about can they outscore their problems a bit? I think Dallas did that a bit last season. They outscored some of their problems. And if they get stronger on the back end, and I'm saying this with a team that's like top 5 in goals against average, they don't give up a ton, but I think we would agree a large part of that has been the goaltending. So I think they can make a couple of moves and maybe have some Vegas vibes going on here in Dallas now, and they should take advantage of it if they can.
Hey, Joey, I just want to quickly say our general manager just walked in the room just now, and he's sitting down over here. You want to let him know where you got that microphone of yours? Because we would like to get one of these sent to Sean.
I think Sean has one.
He's coming on the show.
Oh, there he is, right here.
Not to be outdone. There's
What's that brand, Joey? What's that brand?
These are blue, the Yeti blue mics, man. You go to a pawn shop, get these babies for about $60. I'm telling you right now.
You hear that, Ben? We can do that.
I can take that right out of Lud's paycheck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's in. Out of his Christmas bonus. We get Christmas bonuses, right? He's like, yeah, what? Oh, he just walked away. So
going through a tunnel.
We were just talking about the Mackenzie Blackwood trade, which just happened, and Sam was so excited about it, he had to lead the show, break in. But it puts the Stars in a very interesting position because they're one of their rivals that just barely is in a playoff spot right now, although don't expect them to stay down there.
Yeah.
Can't find a goalie to stop a puck. Well, now they have 2 other guys. I think Blackwood on his day is pretty good, and we all know Scott Wedgwood. But I think Dallas is in a much better position. Now, I would have been happy if they'd kept Wedgie. I really would have. And Sam talked about it in our last segment about the kind of guys. We've got a chance to cover him and, talk to him in the room personally. He's a great guy. He's really fun to chat with. He is not afraid to be entertaining, whereas most of the players are trying to get away from an interview as fast as they can. And he also is a pretty good goalie. And I think he has some miles left on his tread because even though he's, pushing 30, he's been a backup more than he's been a starter. He hasn't really been a starter. What do you think it says when one of the big guys in your division is traded 2 goalies away in the first third of the season?
Maybe it's desperation at this point for Colorado. And you recall back to the first few weeks of the season after Georgiev had a couple of awful starts, and Jared Bednar came out and said, like, this is our guy, he's going to figure it out. And they gave him a leash, and he couldn't figure it out. And I don't know how many Stanley Cup champions are winning with a netminder that has a save percentage below 870. That's a really, really tough ask. So it could be just a last move in desperation. Maybe Mackenzie Blackwood's the answer. I don't know. The Stars have seen him recently, and he's looked pretty good against Dallas when he's with the Sharks. So yeah, I don't know if he's the magic charm for them, but possibly with a better offense in front of him. Obviously, San Jose's a rebuilding team, so maybe with a better offense in front of them, Blackwood will be suitable. But they must be not leaving any stones unturned here to try to get the goaltending solved.
When's the last time Colorado had a legitimate number 1 goalie for
I think it was
a
Patrick
lengthy amount of time?
Yeah.
Was it actually though? I was just thinking of it. I'm trying to think of who
guy that can steal you a series, steal you a game, Patrick.
For at least 3 or 4 years, not just a guy who was good for 1 season.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
they've been searching for that guy,
and yet they've won a Stanley Cup, and they've been one of the better teams in the NHL because of that front end.
And you saw Edmonton last year. Like maybe you guys think differently. I don't think Stuart Skinner is a top tier goaltender. I think he's very good, and he's an NHLer, and I don't want to be disrespectful for him, but I don't think he's in the realm of a Hellebuck, an Oettinger, a Shesterkin, Vasilevsky. I can go on. And Edmonton was so good because of their top end skaters, McDavid, Draisaitl, Bouchard, that they were able to get to within 1 win of a Stanley Cup. And Skinner was good. He had a good run, but you don't need that. But if you have it, boy, that changes everything.
Well, I think the phrase or the term that we used to use, where offense wins games and defense wins championships, it's changed. It's changed because of the rules. It's changed because of how good the players are. And Colorado, Joey, proved it. I mean, the cup that they won, they outscored their mistakes. I mean, not just in the cup, but during the regular season.
Yeah, and I think you look at that series too, that the Stars played in the bubble against Colorado. I mean, the Avalanche took them to Game 7. They had, 3 or 4 goaltenders they used. I think they were on their third string backup at the time, and they still took Dallas to the brink because of that offensive talent. And maybe that's a question I should pose to you guys, because I've been thinking about this recently with Robertson having a bit of a slow start. And we praise Dallas and all the depth and all the scoring ability they do have. But when it comes time to it, when you're in the Western Conference Final, does Dallas not have someone to almost lean on like the Colorados do? They can lean on McKinnon and Makar to make stuff happen. And Edmonton, obviously, they have McDavid. They can lean on him. Does Dallas have that guy that they can just lean on to make something happen or get that goal in order to get over the hump, right? Of course, they have so much depth and they have all the different weapons they can utilize, but sometimes you just need that one guy to make the difference. And it's like, do they really have it? Do they have the guy that can, carry the weight of the load on their shoulders and get them past?
Hold that thought for 1 second, guys. If you're watching on our fast channels, thanks for joining us. We will continue on our YouTube broadcast and, of course, on the audio stream right now. But thanks for joining us on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast. Okay, to answer Joey's question, and I've heard this discussed by our friends Daryl Ray and Bob Sturm on Razor's podcast, the Podman Rush.
I have my man. What are you going to say?
Sturm said, I'm not sure if the Stars have any top 20 or at least top 10 players. Do you have a Dallas Star player that's right now that's in the McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, Kucherov level that, as Joey's just talking about, that can you win you a game? Mike Modano would win you a game in the playoffs.
And he's real close to Mike Modano.
Who?
And I'm talking about winning a round. I'm talking about lighting it up at the right time of the year, getting on that roll and driving the team. For me, it's roopehintz. That's who I think. I think he pushes people back when he's on his game. We're seeing it right now. It's closer to what we've seen. His thing is he's got to stay healthy, right? There's always been these little blips where it's a game. I know in the bubble, I think he came out for a game or two at Game 7, was it?
Well, in the bubble, he got knocked out for Game 7. And I remember they were out.
Yeah.
Hintz, Como, a couple of bad injuries.
My opinion is that's the guy. Because he can do, his speed can open things up. It'll open things up for Robo. And if we're talking about a guy, a line, yeah, if we can see, the magic that's been going on with the Duchesne line, if that happens, but if it's a guy, that's the guy for me right now. Today, I'm sitting here. The first guy that comes to my mind is him, Sam.
Yeah, I agree. I want to say Wyatt Johnston, but not yet. That's my partial answer. I think maybe 2 years, Wyatt Johnston can be that guy because he can do so much. We saw him put on a one-man show shorthanded last night. I don't think he's necessarily there yet where he's on that level, but he's getting there. But I think Luds is exactly right. If there's someone who can just completely say, I'm going to take over this game, this series, it's Roope and we've seen him do it before.
And it would be Roope that's opening up space for Wyatt. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like he can get defenders where they go, we need more than one guy helping with the speed coming through here. And if he's willing to go to the front of the net like he's doing and drive, he naturally pulls two people there. Where I think guys like that you're talking about, and that opens it up for Robo, that opens up for Wyatt, whoever else are playing.
And there's nobody that can keep up with roopehintz when he's on his top of his game and top of his speed.
The thing for me is it should be Miro because Miro is the best player at his position on the Dallas Stars, I believe. Maybe the other one would be Oettinger because if Jake is rising and he's playing great right now, he wants to be considered the best goalie on the planet. He could get to that. I don't know if he's there yet. And we haven't seen it except for that series against Calgary a couple years ago where he was phenomenal, but it was only for one round. So I think the Stars aren't built that way generally to be led by a top-heavy group. They're built to win the aggregate, right? The war of attrition. We have 4 lines. We have 3 D pairs. We can win that way. And we may not be able to keep up with McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen as much, or McDavid, Draisaitl, shift to shift. But over the course of a 60-minute game or of a 7-game series, we're going to wear you down. We're going to win all the battles that matter. Maybe. I mean, they were really close, Luds, to being the team that played the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup final last year. Really close. They had a 2-goal lead in Edmonton in Game 4, and they were not playing well but had 2 quick goals. If they find a way to win that, they're up 3-1. I don't think the Oilers come back in that. But they didn't. And so they're still chasing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a formula that's proven to win for the last few seasons too. The power play and special teams conversation, of course, is a bit of a different topic in the Western Conference Final. But yeah, I hope Robertson can. Hello, Steve. I hope Robertson continues to play like he did last night. I think a perfect representation of what he can become, or I should say his game needs to continue to improve on, was he didn't score on this play, but against Calgary last night. He went to the net. It was about halfway through the second period, and he drove the net, and he went right at Wolf, and he tried to jam a puck home. And obviously, Wolf made the save, but that's a perfect symbol of what you want to see out of Jason Robertson more. Go to the puddle. That's where you get greasy goals. So the majority of goals are. If he can continue to do that, add that to his game, and he looked like he had a little juice. And maybe Robo deserves a bit of grace for coming off of surgery. I mean, just a few months ago, but you pay him to score goals, and that's what fans want to see him to do. So hopefully that will continue.
Yeah, I tried to make that argument, and Luddy has no patience for that.
But what's interesting about what Joey asked, though, is like on the flip side, the Stars weren't able to stop the Edmonton Oilers when they did do what Joey just said, which is have 2-3 guys take over the series. So the question becomes, I mean, it looks like the Stars, to get to a Stanley Cup final, will have to go through a team that is going to look like that, is going to be the top-heavy. I'm not saying Edmonton is only top-heavy, and Colorado maybe will get better throughout the lineup, but it'll be interesting to see how they do against that, because they are built, the Stars are built and will get better to win a Stanley Cup, but you have to do it when you get in that round against the guys. When McDavid has 35 points.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Kaprizov is having that so far that season. He ran into Ryan Suter, and that was a problem before, but the Stars don't have Ryan Suter anymore, whether you like it or not. Winnipeg has the best goalie right now.
Yeah, I would argue that. I think Minnesota has the best goalie right now.
You think? You think Gustafsson is that good right now?
Right now.
More
right
than
now,
Hellebuck?
today. Yes. Right now, today.
So
you can throw them two into the hat for me.
Okay.
You say Kaprizov, and I mean, yeah, for sure. But that guy back there is 2 goals against after 25 games.
What's your top 3?
And I think that goalies
in the world right now.
Well, no, I would definitely go those 3 right there. I think I think that the order, you can go ahead at the end of the week and pick the order that you want. But I think, to me, Hellebuck has shown it more consistently. Jake is coming into his own, and Gustafsson has been around, but right now, I mean, he's put this together. So again, it can change in a month from now, but I think. And again, I go to Billy Guerin. And again, it starts there, but he's the guy that goes out and he assembles what he with one hand tied behind his back. So we'll see. Billy's got to be there. I mean, he can't wait for this Christmas, because this Christmas he's getting a great present. Come July.
Well, we could go on and on, but we're out of time. So Joey, we'll do this again. We appreciate you joining us. 2 things. One, I appreciate that you have the same wall decorations that Sam does, bare bones.
Love it.
And secondly, I believe that part of the whole deal is that Sam's going to be joining your show. So I can't wait to hear what you two collab come up with.
Yeah, I've been on there once or twice already. So
you have?
Yeah,
See, I haven't even paying attention.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Previously, before DLS.
This season.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I had him on in the summer. We chopped it up about the off-season moves, but I look forward to catching up with Sam again. I appreciate you boys having me on.
Hey, Joey, just make sure you know Sam likes Herman Marshall. So if you want to get him going, it's Herman Marshall.
Okay. All righty, the first question.
Well, thank you very much, Joey. We'll see you again soon. That's it for us for today. But don't forget that the Stars show, well, no, we have to do one more thing before we wrap up.
Oh, boy.
Bing bong.
We've got a bing bong, a super chat. Ardell, a little Lundqvist steal from Ardell. Sam Steele is the one bleeping forward Matt Tkachuk would trust to cover him on a pinch play. Producer John is the man of the match. Get it ready, boys.
Get ready, boys.
Let's show.
I
There
like
it
that
is.
he wrote bleeping as well. Appreciate that, Ardell. It's just so we don't accidentally read anything.
When you watch this game, do you feel that
let
he
me
is
let
that
me
responsible?
ask Ardell, and you guys tell me, because I wasn't 100% sure last night in that goal where I talked about Ramiro, the turnover with Lyubushkin. Was it Sam Steele that came sliding into the picture with his stick out? Do you guys remember somebody?
The first goal, the Huberdeau goal.
Somebody came into the frame and somebody dove like Superman, and I swear to God, but I'm just saying he's at some point has to lay out, right? You can't fly straight up and down. So Steele, I believe, on the way back came into the picture because Marchment took off. And I think he was on the ice with Marchment, Steele, and was it Jamie at that particular time?
They were the ones who.
And I think it was him. So
it was Sam Steele that did the dive. I just pulled it up and looked at it. So he's out there. It's Steele, Ben, and who's that? I think that looks like It looks like is that?
No, I know
Marchment.
Marchment. He flew the Jones. This is the problem with all this. He was on the flyby. He took off and the puck was going the other direction. He thought there was going to be let me throw it into an area, and he was taking off. That's the way they play. That's fine. But if Miro plays that right and he buys a little bit more time and he doesn't come all the way across to the other side of the net and then lay down, who had the puck? Who carried the puck, made the pass over to Huberdeau?
It was Nazem Kadri.
Okay. Kadri's got to hang on to that puck a little more because the passing lane isn't there. But Miro slides at him too soon for me. He got too close on the close post side. But what he does is he buys another second or two, and that gives Steele time to get back. And that diving play he makes, he may have even been able to get back and pick him up, which would have taken away the pass all on its own. And because if you watched I watched it this morning, from behind, Jake is all set up to take that shot.
He's ready.
His feet are set. He doesn't have his right foot against the post, getting ready to move across on a pass. He's coming out and he's counting on my defenseman. Play this right. I want that guy right there, and it doesn't happen.
And Sam Steele was the high forward when that turnover happened.
Exactly.
But he curled and
so Ardell, you're right.
Sprinted back.
Yep, you're right.
Perfect.
Get it ready, boys.
Guess what? We're going to be back tomorrow and Wednesday for shows at 2:00. And then we'll get back to games for Thursday and Saturday, off on Friday. So we'll have another show tomorrow. And then, of course, we'll have another one on Wednesday. So I hope you enjoyed today's. We get ready for 3 regular podcasts. We haven't done this for a while where we have 2 or 3 in a row. So it's a lot of fun. Don't forget, get your shirts, get your swag. Love it. AllDLS.com. Click on merch. If you want to get a free one, sign up to be a diehard. You get a free promo code. And we will see you tomorrow. For Craig Ludwig, Sam Nessler, and our producer, John Anderson, I'm Owen Newkirk. Wait a minute.
No, it wasn't a super chat. It's just our GM pressing all the buttons.
He's just hitting bing bongs. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Tomahawk City. We all silly like the mayor.